Okay, it says recording. All right. So yeah, I was saying this is section 1.2. Do you see my writing, guys? You see section 1.2? I hope so. Yes. Okay, perfect. All right. So this is about a random samples. Okay. So last Wednesday, guys, as I said, I introduced statistics, and and we said statistics is just a way to get information from data, right? Now the thing is, to obtain relevant statistics, it's important to be able to sample correctly. Okay, so yeah, so let me just remind you what I said last Wednesday. So statistics is just a way to get information from data. Okay, and I said statistics is actually the study of how to collect, organize, numerical informations from data, right? And so the thing, yeah, so to obtain relevant statistics, it's really important to be able to sample correctly, okay? So to take samples. Yeah, so let me just write down here, yeah, to obtain relevant statistics, it's important. It's very important to be able to. So the key word here, it's to sample correctly. Sample correctly. Okay. So for example, let me give you a couple of examples here. So what do I mean by sample? Again, guys, if you have any question, of course, you can interrupt me anytime, all right? You can unmute yourself. There's no problem. Don't be shy. Feel free to interrupt me anytime, all right?
Okay, so, I have a question.
Yes, please.
The first sentence, it says statistics is a way to get from data.
Oh, information, sorry.
Okay,
I forgot the word information, yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, information, of course. Yeah, so examples. As I said, it's important to be able to sample correctly. So, for example, you cannot conclude that New York City is always sunny, right? By observing a few days in summer, right? In summer, of course, most of the days are sunny, but just by observing a few days in summer, you cannot say, well, New York City is always sunny. That's not true, of course, right? In the winter, we can have, very cloudy. I mean, we can have snowstorms, etc. It can be very cloudy in the winter, etc. So you cannot, just by observing a few days in the summer. So the few days in the summer, that's like your sample, right? Just by observing a few days in the summer, you cannot say, well, New York City is always sunny. That's not true, right? So let me write down here my first example. So we cannot conclude that New York City is always sunny. Always sunny by observing. So the observation here, by observing a few days in the summer. So observing a few days in the summer, this is like a sort of your sample, right? A few days in the summer. Right? Or, well, another example, for example, you cannot count the number of sick people in a hospital and conclude that the entire population is sick, right? I mean, all the patients in the hospital are sick. That's by definition, right? So you cannot just count the number of sick people in the hospital and say, well, the entire population is sick. That's not true, right? So, so example number 2. So you cannot count the number of sick people in the hospital, right? And conclude.
In Zoom, you have to move, go.
Excuse me? I probably are not talking to me, I guess. In a hospital and conclude that you know, the entire population is sick. Of course, that's not true. Okay. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. It's really, I mean, if you want to obtain relevant information or statistics, it's really important to be able to sample correctly, right? Well, so there are different types of sampling or sampling techniques. Okay. The first type of sampling is just a simple random sample. So there are different types of sampling. Okay, or in other words, different types of sampling techniques. Okay. So the first type of sampling, it's just to, it's called the simple random sample. And in a simple random sample, every individual of the population has an equal chance of being selected. Okay. Everyone has an equal chance to be selected. Okay. So that's the first type of sampling. So first type, it's called the simple random sample. Okay. So what do I mean by a simple random sample? So the idea is every individual, so every individual of the population has an equal chance of so the key word here would be the equal chance. Sorry, that's a chance here. Sorry, that's a C, of course. So yeah, the key word here is equal chance of being selected. Right. So of being selected. So so for example, let me give you an example of a simple random sample. Okay, so okay, an example. Okay, let's say you want to choose 11 people out of a group of let's say 121 people. Okay, so let's say you want to choose 11 people out of a group of 121 people. Okay. Using a simple random sampling. Simple random sampling. Okay. Well, there are infinite ways actually to generate a simple random sample in this case. But what we can do here, for example, we have 121 people and we want to pick 11, right? So one way to do this is to, you can number the people, and you can select 11 of the numbers from a hat containing the numbers, from 1 to 121, right? That's a way to pick 11 out of 11 people out of the 121, right? But again, the idea is every individual, every person has an equal chance of being selected, right? So if you just pick numbers from a hat, numbers from 1 to 121, right? And you pick like randomly, or select randomly like 11 numbers, right, from the hat, then every individual, has an equal chance of being selected, right? So how can we, for example, so here, how can we generate a simple random sample in this case? Again, the idea is to choose or to pick 11 people out of the 121, right? So what we can do is we can number the people. So first you can number the people. I mean, give the people numbers, number the people, right? And then you can select 11, number the people first. And then 2, you can select 11 of the numbers from a hat, let's say. From a hat, okay, which contains, of course, containing the numbers, right, from 1 to 121, containing the numbers from 1 to, to 121. Right. So in this way, again, the idea is that every person or everyone has the equal chance of being selected, right? That's the idea. So when we do this, everyone or everyone has an equal chance of being selected. And that's what I call a simple random sample. Equal chance of being selected. Equal chance of being selected. So that's a simple random sample. Okay. Any questions so far, guys? You see what I mean by the simple random sample? So it's just basically you pick people or objects or wherever randomly, right? So everyone has the same chance of being selected, right? So that's what I mean by the simple random sample. All right, so of course, there are other sampling techniques. So we have the simple random sample. Another technique would be, so technique number 2. So number 2. So another sampling technique, it's called actually the stratified sampling. Stratified sampling. So what do we do in the stratified sampling? So the idea here is to divide the entire population into distinct subgroups, okay? And then you choose random samples from each subgroup, okay? So you divide that, so for example, you divide the population into subgroups like, for example, using the gender or age or ethnicity or race or wherever, okay? And then you choose random samples from each subgroup, okay? So, so the idea here is to divide. So you see the difference with the, for example, with the simple random sample. In the simple random sample, I didn't really divide my 121 people, right? But here in the stratified sampling, we divide the population, right? So into subgroups, right? So here we divide the entire population into distinct or different subgroups. Okay, and actually subgroups, there's a word we use for subgroups. Subgroups are called strata, okay? And the one subgroup is called the stratum. So subgroups, for example, let's say the gender, use the gender, you can use the age to divide your population, right? You can use the age, you can use the race or ethnicity or wherever, etc. Okay. And yeah, so I was saying the subgroups are called, they're called strata. And so, and then once you divide your entire population into subgroups, then you choose random samples from each subgroup. Okay, then we choose random samples from each subgroup. Okay. So that's what I call stratified sampling, right? All right. Now, next, we're going to have more examples and exercise. We're going to have exercise and examples in a couple of minutes. But let me finish all the, so different kind of sampling techniques, right? So we have the simple random sample. So every individual has equal chance of being selected, right? Then you have this stratified sampling. We're supposed to divide the population into subgroups and then choose random samples from each subgroup, okay? Then next technique, it's called the cluster sampling. So next. And I'm going to explain, of course, the difference with the stratified sampling. So the cluster sampling, So, so what we do in the cluster sampling, we divide. It's again, we start by dividing, like in the stratified sampling. So we are supposed to divide our area, for example, or population into clusters or sections. Okay, so first we divide, like what we did in stratified sampling, we divide the whole thing into clusters or subgroups. So divide population or the area, okay, into sections or clusters. Okay, and then you randomly select sections. Randomly select sections. Okay. And you include every member. So that's actually the difference with the stratified sampling. So you need to include every member of each selected section in the sample. So we include every member of each selected section in the sample. Okay, so the difference with the stratified sampling, guys. So in the stratified sampling, you divide the population, the same thing, but then you choose random samples from each, right? From each subgroup, right? Or each section or each cluster or wherever, right? Here in the cluster sampling, you have to include every member of each selected section or selected subgroup or wherever in the sample. Okay, so that's the difference between stratified and cluster. In stratified, you choose random samples from each subgroup. In the cluster sampling, you have to include every member of the subgroup in the sample. Okay, so that's the difference between the stratified and the cluster sampling. So here you choose random sample from each subgroup, and here you have to include every individual or every member of each subgroup in the sample. Well, so yeah, anyway, so again, we're gonna have more examples in a couple of minutes. I'm gonna just finish different sampling techniques, and then we'll have more examples, right? So we have the simple random sample where every individual of the population has an equal chance of being selected. In the stratified sampling, we divide the population into subgroups, and then you choose random samples from each subgroup, right? The cluster, again, we divide the population into subgroups or clusters, but then we have to include every individual or member of each subgroup in the sample, right? The next sampling technique, number 4. So number 4, it's called systematic sampling. Systematic sampling. Okay, systematic sampling. It's very, I mean, it's not. It's very easy. It's just you have to number. You have to number all the members or all the individuals of your population in order. Then you choose a random starting point, and then you select, let's say, the kth member, for example. Okay, so let me write it down here. So you number all members of a population in order. Okay, and then you choose a random starting point. Okay, you choose random starting point. So that will be like the individual number 0. Okay, starting point, and then you select the kth member. So the k here is just a random integer. K is just a positive, some positive integer. So for example, guys, so what I am saying, so let's say we have the following population, right? I don't know, let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, etc. Let's say we have 13 people, okay? And I want to do a systematic sampling, okay? So what I can do is I'm going to choose, so first I need to number all the members of my population order, right? So you start from, I don't know, let's say you start from 0, okay? So let's say the first individual, the first individual here has the number 0. Then you have number 1. This is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right. So I just numbered all the individuals here. Right. We have there are, let's say, how many? There are 13. Okay. And then you choose a random starting point. Okay. So for example, I'm gonna say, well, the number 5, that's my starting point. Okay, I'm gonna start at the individual or member number 5. Okay, that's my starting point. And then I'm gonna select the kth member. So k is just a random integer. So for example, k, let's say k is, for example, k is 4. So let's say k is 4. K is 4. So I have to select the 4th member, right? So we have to select the 4th member. Okay. So in other words, you start at 5, right? This is supposed to be my starting point. So this is my, we start at 5 here, okay? And then I'm supposed to select the 4th member, right? So this would be like my first, the first individual, first member. This is my second. This is my third. And this one, the lucky one, is this one, the 4th member, right? This is my 4th. That's my 4th member. So this one is actually selected. So we select this one. It's selected. Okay. So you have a starting point, and then you choose k. As I said, k is just some integer. You pick some random integer, and you say, well, I'm gonna pick, or I'm gonna select the kth member, right? In my example, k is 4, so I'm gonna select the 4th member, right? But the thing is, you start from your there's this starting point. So you start from your starting point, and you count like 4 members, right? The 4th member will be your the selected one. Okay, so that's what I call the systematic sampling, right? You just you number all the individuals, and you start from some point, the starting point, and then you choose or you pick the yes. There's a question here. Yes, please.
Okay, my question is, if the starting point is, for example, 4, and we say like k equal 7, so what's next? Like,
yeah, I mean, you can do that too, of course. It's up to you. It depends on the example, or it depends on the example, right? So you can decide. It depends on. It's up to you. So for example, as you said, you can decide to start with number 4. So that will be your. So let me just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So again, let me just number here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then this is 12 here. So you're saying, or you suggested to start at 4, right? So
Yeah.
number 4 would be your starting point. Starting point. And you said K is 7, right?
Yeah.
If, right, K is 7, you said, I think. K is 7. So I'm gonna select the 7th member. So you start from 4 and you count. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that this would be the 7th individual, right? So 7th member is, so this one's gonna be selected. Okay. Does this answer your question?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
perfect.
you.
Okay, sure. So yeah, is there any other question, guys? I mean, as I said, we're gonna have examples exercise in a minute. Just I'm gonna finish with all the different techniques, and we'll see with the examples. We'll see. We'll discuss some examples, and we'll see how to determine whether the sampling is a stratified one or a cluster sampling, or et cetera, right? So just give me a couple of minutes just to finish with all these sampling techniques. So let's just remind you. So we have the simple random sample, the stratified sampling, the cluster sampling, the systematic sampling. There's another sampling technique would be just to combine different sampling techniques, right? You can combine all these techniques and create like a new or smaller groups. Okay, so next. So next, it's called actually the multi-stage sampling. So number 5. So this is multi-stage sampling. So in multi-stage sampling, guys, you use more than one sampling techniques, all right? So you can use, for example, stratified and systematic. You can use, so you can use more than one sampling technique, right? So you combine, you can combine different sampling techniques. Okay, you know, to create smaller groups. So for example, you can start with a stratified sampling. You divide population into subgroups using, for example, ethnicity, right? And then you can use the cluster sampling, right? You can divide your subgroups into, for example, into clusters, etc. Okay, so you can combine all these sampling techniques. And then the last one, the last sampling technique, it's called the convenience. So number 6, the last one, last sampling technique, number 6. It's called convenience sampling. And again, as I said, we see a couple of examples in a minute. So you can create actually a sample by using data from population members that are easily available. Okay, so you can create a sample by using just the people. So by using data from people or population, by using, sorry. So by using data from people from individuals that are easily available for you. So for example, I can, I need to create a sample. I can, for example, contact my friends or call my friends or relatives, so just I can call just people that are easily available, right? So for example, you can contact friends or relatives or co-workers, right, etc. Okay, just people that are easily available, right? So that's what I call convenience sampling. All right, let's have some examples, okay? So example or exercise. Probably I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to think about the exercise. So let's start with the first exercise. So exercise 1. All right. So I'm going to give you like different sampling techniques, and then of course you need to categorize each technique as a simple random sample, stratified sample, etc. Right. So for example, we want a sampling size of 100 businesses for example, in New York. Okay, just an example. Okay, so I'm going to use different sampling techniques, and so we have to determine or you have to categorize, let's say. Okay, categorize each technique as so we have the simple random sample, or the stratified sampling, right, or the cluster sampling, or the systematic sampling, okay, or the convenience sampling. Okay, so first sampling technique. So let's say with A. So so I'm gonna do, I'm gonna assign each business. So I'm gonna assign each business a number. Each business in New York, of course. In New York, a number. And then select a number to be included in the sample. Okay. Number 2, B. So in B, I'm going to use the zip codes. I'm going to use zip codes, to divide the state, to divide New York to divide New York into regions, let's say. Okay, and then I'm gonna pick a random sample of 10 zip code areas. So I'm gonna pick a random sample of 10 zip code areas. Okay, and then include them all the businesses in each selected zip code area, and then include and so I guess the keyword here is include all the the businesses in each selected zip code area. Zip code area. Okay. Yeah, let me finish with the number C. So let's finish with the number C. So C. So I'm gonna group the businesses according to the type. So for example, medical, financial, construction, etc. So I'm gonna group the businesses according to the type. So I'm gonna divide, in other words, I'm gonna divide the businesses into subgroups according to the type of the business. For example, medical business, or financial business, or I don't know, construction business, etc. Right? Different types of businesses, etc. Okay, so I have all these subgroups. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to select a random sample of 10 businesses from each type. Then select 10, a random sample of 10, a random sample of 10 businesses from each type. Of 10 businesses from each type. Okay. Okay, so that's the first exercise. So I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to think about this exercise, guys. So you have to think about all these sampling techniques, and again, you need to say, whether it's a simple random sample, or a stratified sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, or convenience sampling. So again, guys, in the stratified and cluster samplings, we had to divide the population into subgroups, right? So like here for A, we didn't divide like the businesses into subgroups, right? So it's clear like A, it's not a stratified or cluster sampling, right? So yeah, so the question is it a simple random sample, systematic, or convenience? Um, it's B. Um, oh, yeah. So guys, here we have three different sampling techniques, right? I mean, A, this is my first sampling, right? Technique. This is B. This is my second sampling technique, and this C is my third sampling technique, right? So you have to say, or you have to, determine whether like A, is it a simple random sample, stratified sampling, et cetera, right? So, and B the same, and the same for C, right? So you have to say whether each sampling, is it, a simple random sample, or, the stratified sampling, or et cetera, right? So we have like three different kind of sampling techniques here. Okay, the A, B, and C are different samplings, right? So for each one, you have to say if it corresponds to the simple random sample, etc. The stratified sampling or cluster sampling. Yes, Carlos, please.
I think I have the answer for all three, but I don't know if I'm right. So.
Okay, all right. Okay, so let's discuss A first. So what's your guess for A?
It's a simple random sample.
Very good. The A, it's just a simple random sample because, well, so what we do in A, so we assign each business in New York a number, and then select a number to be included in the sample. So here, we didn't divide like the businesses into categories or subgroups, right? So it's not stratified, so it's not a cluster, and it's not a convenience sampling, right? So we didn't just call like the businesses we know, right? So it's just we assign each business in New York a number. So then we are left with a simple random sample and the systematic sampling, right? And remember, in the systematic sampling, we had to number all the members of the population in order. That's good. And then we have to choose a random starting point, right? So here, we didn't really choose a starting point, right? We just assign numbers, and then we just pick some random numbers, right? So yes, Carlos, absolutely. So the A, it's actually a simple random sample. So A, probably gonna go a little bit up here. So yes, so A, it's a simple random sample. Okay. Any question why A would be a simple random sample? Okay, no questions. Okay, what about B? What was
B
your
is the
guess,
cluster.
Carlos? Excuse me?
Me?
B.
Carlos, or I think I heard someone else. I'm not sure. Yes. Carlos, what was
Yes,
your
I'm
guess?
here. I have systematic sample.
For B?
Yes,
Okay.
for B.
I think, Jinabu, you had a different answer, right?
I have cluster sampling.
Yeah, it's a cluster sampling, absolutely. So, Carlos, you said it's systematic sampling, right? So why do you think it's a
Yes.
systematic sample? So here in B, so what did you do in B? So we use the zip codes to divide New York into regions or into subgroups, right? So we divide our population into subgroups. So this looks like the stratified, sampling, because in stratified sampling we divide your population into subgroups, and also like for clusters we divide your population into sections or subgroups or wherever, right? So it's not systematic here. We didn't number like all the individuals of a population and then like choose a random starting point here. We really divide our, so in B, we divided New York. Let me just write it down here. So in B, so we divided New York into subgroups or sections or clusters. Subgroups. Let me just use the word subgroups here, because we don't know yet if it's a cluster or stratified. So I'm going to just use the word subgroups. Subgroups. So how do we divide New York into subgroups? Are you using the zip codes, right? Using zip codes. Okay. So for the moment, it looks like it's either a stratified sampling or a cluster sampling, right? It's not as simple.
I thought it was the systematic one, because it says pick a random sample of the 10 zip codes. So I was kind of confused with that.
Well, in systematic sampling, we have to number all the businesses. Here we didn't number the businesses, right? So we divide the New York the New York into subgroups, and then we pick a random sample of 10 zip code areas, right? And then we include all the businesses in each selected zip code in the sample. So when you include all the businesses, or when you include all the individuals, that's actually cluster sampling, because remember the cluster sampling, we said we have to include every member of each selected section in the sample. So let me just here go up a little bit, just to remind you that where's this cluster here? You see the cluster? Yeah. So you see, divide the population into sections or subgroups or whatever. So we divide New York into sections using the zip code, right? And then randomly select sections. So we randomly select 10 zip code areas, right? And then we included every member of each section in the sample. And that's what we did. We included every business, where is it? You see here, we include all the businesses in each selected zip code area in the sample. So that's why this is a cluster sampling. Does this make sense to you? I mean, so we use the zip code to divide New York into sections. right? And then in the cluster sampling, we said we randomly select sections. So we selected how many here? A random sample of 10 zip code areas. So we selected like 10 sections, right? And then we included every individual of each selected section in the sample. And here we include all the businesses in each selected zip code area in the sample. So that's exactly what we do in the cluster sampling. Does this make sense to you? I mean, let me know,
Yes,
guys. I
it
mean,
makes sense.
it's I know this is like first time, you know, there's definitions. It's gonna take a little bit of time, but we're gonna have one more exercise. So don't worry. Again, you have just to read carefully the definition and compare it to the to the example. So yes, so the B, that's a cluster sampling, right? Now the C. Let's see what happens in the C. In the C, so what we do is we group the businesses according to the type. So in some sense, we just divided the businesses into subgroups according to the type of the business, right? Medical, financial, wherever. So we divided our businesses into subgroups, right? So this sounds like it's either stratified or cluster, right? And then, well, first, any guess? So the C, it would be a stratified or a cluster again? Sampling. Stratified, yes, because in the stratified sampling, so we divide first the population into subgroups. So that's what we did here. We divide businesses using the type into subgroups. And then we have to choose random sample from each subgroup. And here exactly what we do is we select a random sample from each type, right? From each type. Okay, so from each type we select a random sample. That's not the same in the cluster. Cluster, we select some sections, and then we include every member of each selected section in the sample. That's not what we do here. Here, we select just a random sample of 10 businesses from each type, okay? So in the C, that will be, sorry, here I forgot to say, so this is, of course, this is a cluster sampling. So in C, this is stratified sampling, because we choose random samples from each subgroup. Okay, so because we choose random, or we select, or we choose random samples from each subgroup. Random samples from each subgroup. Okay, so that's exactly what we have here. As you can see, guys, we select a random sample from each type. So from each subgroup, we select a random sample. Right? That's exactly what I call the stratified sampling. Okay. So you see in the cluster sampling, like for our businesses, we include all the businesses in the selected zip code, right? That's not that's the cluster. We include all the businesses in each selected subgroup or zip code area. Okay. In the stratified, we choose some random samples from each subgroups, right? So we don't include all the individuals or the businesses of all the subgroups. Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, let's have one more exercise. So this is, let's see. Okay. Yeah, let's have one more exercise. So let's stratify. Okay, exercise. So we have, how much time do we have? Okay, last 5 minutes. Okay, that's good. Let's have another exercise. Exercise number 2. Oops. Exercise number 2. Okay, so the same question. So the same thing. So we have this. So the management. Probably we come back to this exercise next time. But let me just first write down the exercise. Okay, so the management of a chain of hospitals. So the management wants to survey patients' discharge. Okay. Let's say discharge this past year. Okay. For example, to obtain patient satisfaction profiles. And we want to use, of course, a sample of such patients, okay? We want to use a sample of such a patient. All right, so let's say the first, first sample. So what we're gonna do to get our first sample, let's say we obtain, so we have the list of all, so we obtain a list of patients discharged from all the hospitals. So I guess the keyword here is all. From all the excuse me, the hospitals here, from all hospitals. Okay. And then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna divide the patients according to the length of the hospital stay. So I'm gonna divide the patients according to the length of the hospital stay. So for example, let's say you have a hospital stay. So let's say you have like a stay of 2 days or less, and then from 3 to 7 days, then for example, 8 to 14 days, and then more than 14 days. Okay, so in other words, we divided our patients into subgroups, right? More than 14. And then we selected random samples from each subgroup. From each subgroup. Okay, well, Okay, so well, I guess I don't have time to finish all the whole exercise here. I guess I'm going to continue this exercise next time, but let me just say a word here. So in this case, for example, we divided the patients into subgroups, right? Depending on the hospital stay, right? The hospital stay, so we have 2 days or less, etc. So we divided the patients into subgroups, right? And then we selected random samples from each subgroup, right? So in this case, this would be, yes. Any guess? Is it stratified? You said stratified, right?
Systematic?
No, this is, no, this, so yes, so this would be a stratified sampling, because again, when you divide your population into subgroups, so either you're gonna have a stratified or cluster sampling, right? But then in the stratified, what you do, you choose random samples from each subgroup, right? So here we selected some random samples from each subgroup. So this is an example of actually of stratified sampling. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna stop here. It's already time. I'm gonna continue this exercise next time. So I'm gonna remind you next time the different kind of sampling techniques, and then we're gonna have, we're gonna continue this exercise next time. All right. So I'm gonna stop here, and yeah, I hope I'm gonna see you on Wednesday in person. All right, guys. See you next time on Wednesday.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. By the way, guys, if you need the lecture notes, I mean, I can download the board. So if you want the notes, I can send you the PDF file. Just let me know. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I guess I'm gonna stop recording.